HRWize gives you the ability for employees to make their expense claims by their self-service function. Now we've configured our expense settings and created our expense categories, we're now ready to look at how an employee is able to make an expense claim and see what happens next. To create an expense claim, we'll log in as one of our employees who's also registered in the HRWize system. We can select Add Expenses in a quick launch menu, or we can go to Self-Service, My Request, Expenses, and then click on Add to create a new expense report. Here we can see the status of previous claims. There will be awaiting approval, approved pending payment, paid, or rejected. When you see a claim that has a draft status, this is when this has not yet been submitted for approval, or in other words, it's still open and we can add more lines of expenses to it. So instead of creating a new claim, we'll click on the edit action of one of our draft claims. Here we can see that we have entered a name for our report and, if necessary, a description. As you can see, there's already one line of expenses added. You can add one or more lines of expenses by clicking on Add Line, or you can enter a value here and then click on Add Multiple. But let's click on Add Line and enter the details of our claim. First, we enter the date, and from the drop-down list of categories that we have created, we'll select Hotel, and then enter the reason, enter the name of the vendor or supplier, enter the gross amount value of this expense with the right currency, which is Canadian dollar, and next, we click on the Browse button to upload a receipt for each line of the expense or for the claim. Before we submit for approval, we need to confirm that these entries in this claim are true and accurate. We can click on Save if we want to return to this claim and add more lines to the expense. But in this case, we'll click on Submit for approval. And as we can see, the report has been successfully updated and submitted. Clicking on Cancel, we return to the employees list of expenses, and you can see that the expense that we have just added is pending approval. Now let's take a look at what happens to the claim now that it has been submitted. We'll log in as Mark Cuban, who is Angela's manager and approver. In the Workflow section here, to the right of Mark's home screen is Angela's expense report. We can click on this to go directly to the expense claim where we can approve or decline, or we can go to Finance and then Expenses, where we can see listed any expense claims. Clicking on Actions, we can view the claim, view the receipts, download the receipts, print it, and approve. So we'll click on the Approve action. Now here we can see the details of the claim, and we can click here to look at the uploaded receipts. And then at the bottom of the page, we can choose to either approve or decline the claim. Now we can see that the claim has been approved and is now pending payment by Finance. Returning to Angela's expense view and then refreshing the screen, we can see that the claim has been approved and is pending payment. Now we'll log in as Ryan Howard, the finance manager, to process the payment for the claim. To do this, he'll go to Finance and then Expenses. Here you can see listed any expense claims, including those where payment is pending. Now we'll click on Actions, and you can see that in addition to the actions the approver had, we can also click on Process Payment and push back. Let's click on Process Payment. Scrolling at the bottom of the screen, here we can add all of the payment details, and then we can click on Mark Paid. The status now shows as paid in the Finance Manager view. Returning to the Employees Manager view and then refreshing the screen, we can also see that the status has paid. And finally, returning to the Employees view and refreshing the screen, we can also see that the status is also paid.